Redditors who are married to Karens, how is it like?
Before we continue with the video, please hit a subscribe, likes, and comments to make sure you don't miss our next video.
Number 15. I know a guy who's married to a Karen named Karen. Every part of their family's life is perfectly scheduled. Right from the homework to the dinners. I think the bathroom schedule has been out of whack recently. I think it's a win-win situation for him since his life is perfectly organized with minimal effort on his part, and when someone crosses a line and annoys him, his wife will destroy them with her passive-aggressive comments and he still doesn't have to raise a finger.
Number 14. My mom is a Karen. She literally cannot help herself but to tell other her opinion. She genuinely sees it as doing everyone a favor. It destroys her relationships with my siblings. None of my other siblings will talk to her. A few years ago we went out to eat. The restaurant served bread and butter before the meal. The butter was whipped. My mom, the former dairy farmer's daughter, insisted they bring her real butter. The waitress went back to the kitchen and came back and told her what she had was butter. How dare she? My mom, who apparently is infallible in her ability to detect butter, started acting like a complete ass to the waitress about it. She knows what real butter tastes like. I go to this restaurant often and my kids are there, so my first instinct was to apologize to the waitress. That was a bad idea. As soon as I did, my mom went into a rage about respecting your elders and walked out of the restaurant. To this day she still won't admit she was unkind to the waitress.
Number 13. Not married to a Karen, but my mom is a Karen whose name is actually Karen. Simply put, I haven't seen her in over a year because I couldn't take it anymore. Living with her was just an exhausting nightmare. Karen's world revolves around Karen. Nobody else's issues matter. If you tell her that you had a bad day, she'll give you 20 reasons why her day was worse. You worked 60 hours this week? Well, when she was your age, she would work 80. You're in the hospital after having major surgery? She has a pinched nerve in her arm, which is somehow worse. Your boyfriend cheated on you? She couldn't even begin to tell you about all the heartbreak she's experienced in her life. She complains left and right about anything and everything. If you're taking a week break after just getting back from college, she'll ask why you haven't gotten a job yet and claim you're lazy. If you're out to eat at a restaurant, the food is always too cold or too burnt or too salty. You can only ever go to the places she wants to go to, because everything else is crap. My entire graduation dinner she complained about how cold the food was. She thrives in getting attention and constantly seeks it, but she has very few actual friends. Facebook is her lifeblood and she's always looking to start something on there. She's the queen of sharing uninformed, misguided, conservative propaganda, which always starts fights in her comments. Also, if a tragedy happens in the family, like the passing of my teenage cousin, she'll make a big scene on Facebook and expect condolences from anyone and everyone, and makes note of the people who don't give her what she wants. Don't even get me started on the blatant racism. I've heard everything from, watch out for black people on the subway. They'll try to take your purse, to it should be illegal for those Muslims to cover their faces. You should be able to see someone's face. One of my best friends is black and she once told me, he's one of the good ones. They should all be like him. Minor, but the house always has to be spotless. You have a shirt on your bedroom floor? Pick up. You kids are all slobs. We have people coming over. No, we don't, and even if we do, why would they be going in my bedroom? Her house is her house, and she'll let you know. Any object she has spent money on doesn't belong to you, it belongs to her. She also spends way too much money on home decor like oriental rugs, furniture, etc., but then complains about how she has no money. TLDR, my mother is a Karen who is actually named Karen. Living with her is a nightmare. And before anyone asks, yes, my dad is divorced from her.
Number 12. I dated a Karen for a while. Yes, the is the reason I stayed as long as I did. Let me guess, when she realizes she's not just being a basic sandwich, and she's raised your dander from annoyance to what is wrong with you? That's when the flirty side comes out. Like she realizes that she's crossed the line, and so now it's time to fog your mind with amazing sex the instant she can. That's an easy formula for things to turn toxic. She's associated sex with calming you down after she's pissed you off. So if she's clearly she has to piss you off first, so there's something she can do to make it up to you. Meanwhile, every time she pisses you off, in the back of your head there's a part of you that likes it because hey, for however long you're pissed off right now, this is going to end in awesome sex. How can you hold a grudge? Escape, mother-father. How many Admiral Akbar gifts do you need to cut things off for good?
Number 11. Was married to a male Karen. Everything, and I mean everything, could set him off. We were at a local taproom and his iPhone automatically connected to the Wi-Fi. Keep in mind that he had full bars on our cell service. The Wi-Fi was being wonky and wasn't working. The manager, the super nice guy, comes over and asks how we are doing, while he washes some glasses in the dish pit on the other side of the bar. The following conversation ensues. Keep in mind, my husband is super irritated at this made-up problem because our cell service is working just fine and he can literally just turn off the Wi-Fi. Husband, your Wi-Fi is trash. Manager, I'm sorry. We recently upgraded our internet, and Cox is sending us a new modem. It's supposed to be here this week. Husband, if you say you have Wi-Fi, you should make sure it actually works. Manager, I know. I'm sorry. I'd be happy to restart the modem to see if that helps. The husband then ignores him and continues to talk under his breath about a made-up issue. This was my life for almost 5 years. The sense of entitlement was frustrating enough in public, but more so at home. I had apologized to more servers, retail workers, neighbors, and random people in public for him in 5 years than the rest of my life outside of him. You know what, now that I'm talking about it, maybe he's not so much a male Karen. He's more like a piece of shit.
Number 10. I can relate to that. My ex-wife could be a Karen and this was one of her triggers. What made it worse is that usually it would stem from the simplest of things. All the usual suspects that make people insecure, like obvious rejections/insults/failure. She managed like a normal person, but she would find those things in almost any situation. An example would be she missed her train home and called if I could pick her up from the next town over rather than wait for the next train, a whole 20 minutes. When I got there she was waiting on the side of the road and I could not park properly. So I blocked the road and waited for her. She just stood there. When I asked what the problem was, she complained a gentleman would open the door. Once in the car she then complained that I took ages and why can't I greet her lovingly. I didn't really care by then, but not once did she even thank me. I would have just preferred she did not default berate me. After many situations like that I realized everything I was putting in the relationship, as a people pleaser, would come back as punishment, from the Karen. Anyway, ex-wife now. I don't regret marrying her, I do regret staying with her longer than I should. That is the only advice I can give.
Number 9. I'm divorcing a Karen. Nothing was ever good enough, everything had to be the most expensive thing, and even then it wasn't good enough. It was exhausting and it sucked the passion I had for life out of me. Edit, slept on this and thought of some more telltale signs. She never said nice things about me, or to other people. My best friend came over for a barbecue with his wife and kids, and she and her mother just mocked me the whole time to my friend's wife. My friend's wife confronted them about it. Even on our wedding day, the part "you say nice things" sounded like a tentatively warm school report card. The nicest thing I remember her saying about me was, "I like how you make the salads. It's better than how I make it." The whole time that's the best I can think of.
Number 8. When I first met my wife, she was beautiful in every single way. I remember looking at her when we walked around a lake, and as she spoke to the ducks I thought, I'm going to marry this beautiful Snow White. She loved all animals, and they loved her right back. Her soul was pure. She looked like a queen in everything she wore, be it jeans or a sun dress. She was never a princess-type woman. She was always destined to be my queen. She demanded love and respect because that was what she deserved. I'm not sure when she changed, but slowly and surely she did. She humiliates me, she belittles me, and she saddens me. I'll never be right or even acknowledged to have a valid point or opinion. She wastes money that I work hard to earn. She has strategically spaced out our pregnancies to maximize the time she doesn't have to return to paid work. She has admitted this. Why don't I leave her? Better the devil you know,
Number 7. Was married to one. Think they are a monster in public? Absolutely terrible at home. Bullies, nasty, cannot lose an argument. Physically and mentally abusive. The worst thing she would do is if she had the idea I might walk out, she would physically corner me, ensure she was 1 inch from me, and scream in my face for sometimes over an hour, trying to egg me into touching her so she could call the cops on me for assault. Worst thing, I got screamed at for 2 weeks solid when she could. She rear-ended someone in her geo-tracker, poor women's Karen mobile. Shattered her grill was all. I went to a few pick-and-pulls to see if I could find a new grill. No geo-tracker, but found a Chevy Tracker grill. I bought it. I had to have permission to spend a dime, so I told her a Tracker grill. I got home about the same time as she did from work. I was her live-in nanny for her kids, and saw it on the counter before I could debadge it and put it on her tracker with the Geo logo. 2 weeks of hell. Told her I'd take it back and get a Geo Tracker one. I did next day. Take it back. I went and found the badge I saw the other day that wasn't sun-faded like hers. Stuck it on the Chevy Tracker grill, and installed it. She had no clue, but she went on for days how stupid I was to buy a Chevy grill, obviously not the same vehicle. How she had to wait a whole extra day to be able to drive it to work. That she had to answer why she was driving my shitbox, lol. That she had to lie about it for a second day being in the shop. That my wax wasn't good so it didn't look obvious that the grill was replaced. That I should have used the original badge so it wasn't obvious. I put original badge back on. Then she about how the old logo was. That I should have cleaned it sooner, or changed it sooner, but can't change it now to draw eyes to the too clean grill. Was my fault I couldn't buy a more worn grill. That the grill wasn't centered, it was centered, her old wasn't. That it's my fault she drove the car, she refused to let her kids ride in the old crappy car when I shuttled them. That it's my fault we couldn't afford a second car, first 3 years of marriage refused to let me work. My fault we lived where we were. My fault she rear-ended the guy. My fault, her brakes were shit. My fault that she drove the faster route I found to her work. My fault that she still worked there. My fault I didn't force her to move to San Diego. My fault I didn't make her a new child. My fault we didn't have sex often. My fault I didn't arouse her. My fault that we married too soon. My fault that her kids were only A students, not A+. My fault that I had to sleep on the couch. My fault that all the plates she threw at me broke. My fault. When she couldn't win a fight, the past would win it for her. If that wouldn't win, she would get straight abusive until I would submit. After I left her, which was the second largest war and longer story, found out that she fucked every male employee she worked with on business trips. And yes, we are at a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde scenario. All the way up to the wedding, she was outwardly a great person. Wedding changed her into Karensaurus Rex.
Number 6. My ex-wife is a Karen, in every sense but name. It was always so embarrassing. She was incapable of treating anyone like a human for the most trivial of occurrences. It was hell for me, as a person that's pretty forgiving and don't seek out confrontation. So in a one-word description, it was hell. LOL. P.S. She's very codependent and jumps from relationship to relationship these days. Not surprised.
Number 5. I am divorced from my Karen. I used to go into our local video rental store and find that she had closed our account in a huff over incorrectly applied late fees. I would have a quiet conversation with the manager during which I would apologize for whatever she had said, and he would then reinstate my account, with no late fees. I can only imagine the scene she caused there that resulted in our account getting closed. I realized later that these interactions at the video store were a microcosm of our entire relationship. She went about in a righteous huff, wreaking havoc in all areas of our life, while I was left to pick up the pieces.
Number 4. Not married but dated a male Karen for 8 years. He was a semi-successful business owner who was twice my age, and I was young and dumb, for a lack of a better word. The gist of our relationship was him trying to take over every part of my life. For instance, he would order for me at restaurants and would dissuade me if I wanted to try something new. If I had a problem with something, it would be brushed off, but if he had a problem, then he had to talk to a manager. Not knowing any better, I just thought he was very particular, and even started copying some of his tendencies, like speaking up when I felt I wasn't getting the right service when I was out on my own. I realized who he was when we were flying back from Vegas and our luggage was heavier than when we flew in. Obviously we'd bought extra things which made up for the weight difference, so as he demanded to know an explanation from the check-in clerk as to why, if it was the same luggage, would it somehow weigh more, I innocently answered that it must have been the extra shoes and clothes. He was quiet and paid up. Later he told me not to do that again, as he knew the reason why the luggage was heavier. He was just trying to get away with not paying. At that moment a bulb went off in my head. This man who'd spent $1,500 on a stripper for his friend was making an already stressful job more stressful for the clerk in order to avoid paying $60. We broke up soon after, and I checked myself on the Karen tendencies he'd rubbed off on me.
Number 3. Not married. 4 years of a toxic relationship though. I broke up with her on Monday again. We're kind of financially because of this lockdown, so we are just feeling things out for a month before we decide for sure. This cycle is on repeat. I constantly have to cut her off and speak over her because of the way she treats people. Waiters, sales assistants, gym staff, neighbors, landlords, randoms we meet in bars, etc. Note: we were both waiters at the beginning of our relationship, so she has worked in the industry, but still lacks empathy. She blames the waiter if something is out of stock, etc. My second major issue. We are both English second language teachers. She teaches kindergarten, while I teach high school. Now that we are working from home, I hear how she speaks to her students, and it's really opened up another aspect of her personality that I don't like. She will berate a student for not understanding instead of evaluating her ability to explain. Shitting on 3-year-olds in their second language doesn't fly with me. A lot of her behavior stems from a self-defense mechanism due to insecurity, but that's not an excuse. She doesn't realize how mean she is to people, including myself. I'm a people pleaser who would rather sacrifice my own comfort than someone else's. She expects me to be an asshole to people because I'm a big-ish guy with tattoos. I don't exactly look soft. It's toxic as hell, please help.
Number 2. Not married to a Karen, but married someone with a Karen for a sister. Sayel is the freaking worst. I hate more than anything going out to dinner with her, listening to her order food and talk to the servers. Holidays are also terrible. She sends out long lists of expected gifts list. She celebrates every holiday and birthday specifically for presents even when it's not appropriate. Funny thing is, one time I was away from the dinner table when the bill came and Sayel waited for me to return to pay the bill by actually handing it to me. She didn't give it to her sibling / my so or pay her half, but expressly handed it to me to pay. By the way, her husband is an idiot and they are a match made in heaven. Edit: I'm sorry to disappoint everyone, but yes, I did pay. There are many reasons as to why, but the biggest one is that it got me out of the restaurant faster. Also, it helps me control the tip. Another time we went to a family brunch where the bill was split. Karen Sale waited to see what other people tipped so she could lower the overall tip percentage for the waitress to what Sale thought was deserving. We didn't know this until afterwards when she bragged about it later, so no one even knew to stop her. And she is invited to these family meals because she has 2 children we want a relationship with, so she has that emotional blackmail card.
Number 1. Not married to one, but my mom is absolutely one. I spend most of my time with her in public apologizing to people after she's walked away. The one and only time it comes in handy is when I've bought cars and had her come in during the price negotiation phase. She's knocked off thousands purely due to how unpleasant she is and how much people want her to just get the hell out of the door. Weaponized a Karen, nice.
Thank you for watching. If you like to watch more of these videos, please leave a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and don't forget to share to your friends and family. I'll see you in the next video.